I worked 16-hour days, paid every bill, gave up my own dreams just to make her happy. She called it just doing my job. I stayed quiet for 9 years. Then one Tuesday night, she said 4 words that changed everything, and I finally stopped being invisible in my own home. If you've ever given everything to someone and got nothing back, this story is for you. Then like and subscribe if you've ever felt unseen by someone you loved. Frame it as solidarity, not begging. Stay till the end, because what I did next wasn't revenge. It was something better. My name is Wesley Carter. I'm 34 years old, and for most of my adult life, I believed love meant giving until it hurt, and then giving a little more. I grew up in a small house outside Dayton, Ohio, raised by a mother who worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. She used to say, "Wes, a real man doesn't talk about love. He shows it, with his hands, with his paycheck, with his back turned towards his own needs." I carried that with me into every part of my life, especially my marriage. I met Margot when I was 26. She was sharp, funny, a little broke, and chasing a dream nobody else believed in, building her own interior design business from nothing. I believed in her before her own family did. I think that's part of why I fell so hard. She made me feel like I mattered to her future. So when she needed help, I didn't think twice. I picked up double shifts at the construction site so she could finish her last semester without working a side job. I co-signed a loan for her first studio space, even though it scared we half to death. I skipped my own brother's wedding rehearsal dinner because she had a client trip the same weekend, and I told myself, she needs me right now. I never once thought I was losing myself. I thought I was building us. I didn't mind the sacrifice, not back then. I used to come home exhausted, hands raw, back aching, and she'd be at the kitchen table sketching floor plans by lamplight, and I'd just watch her for a second before she noticed me. That was enough. That was the whole reward. I thought that's what real love looked like: quiet, steady, unselfish. But looking back now, I can see the first crack so clearly, even though at the time I brushed right past it. It was a Sunday dinner with her parents. I made some small comment about a contractor decision I'd made that week, something I was proud of, actually. And Margot just laughed, not a warm laugh, a dismissive one, and said, "Wesley, stick to swinging hammers, okay? Let the adults talk business." Everyone chuckled. I laughed too, because what else do you do? But something in my chest went quiet that night. Wait, did she mean that? I told myself she was just tired, stressed, joking. I didn't know it then, but that one comment was the first thread pulled loose in a sweater I'd spent years knitting together. And once a thread comes loose like that, eventually, the whole thing starts to unravel. Years moved fast after that. We had Owen first, then Ruthie 3 years later, and life became this blur of school drop-offs, mortgage payments, and late-night feedings, while Margot's business slowly became something real. I was proud of her. I want to be clear about that. I was genuinely, deeply proud. But somewhere in those years, I stopped being her husband and started being her logistics manager. I picked up overtime whenever her studio needed a cash cushion. I handled the kids' doctor appointments because her client meetings couldn't move. I paid for Owen's private school out of my own savings without her even asking how I managed it. And slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice, she stopped asking about my day. Our conversations became transactions. Do you pay the electric bill? Can you pick up Ruthie at 4? I'll be late. There's a launch event. That was it. That was us. I remember her correcting me in front of dinner guests once, calling my opinion on a renovation project a little outdated but cute, and everyone laughed, and I just sat there with my fork in my hand, smiling like it didn't land somewhere deep. She forgot my birthday 2 years in a row, not maliciously, just forgot. But that same spring, she threw a beautiful party for her business partner's anniversary, hand-picked the flowers herself. I told myself, she's just busy. People show love differently. I'd been telling myself that sentence for years now. My friend Tobias pulled me aside one night at his place, beer in hand, and said something I couldn't shake. "Wes, you've turned into her assistant, not her husband. When's the last time she asked how you were doing, really doing?" I got defensive. I told him he didn't understand our relationship, that Margot just expressed love through actions, not words. I believed that. I needed to believe that. Then one night, I was walking past her office, about to ask if she wanted tea, and I heard her on the phone with a friend, laughing about scheduling conflicts. And she said it so easily, so lightly. "Wesley's great, honestly. He's just convenient. He handles everything, so I don't have to think about it." Convenient. I stood in that hallway for a long moment, tea growing cold in my hand, and something inside me went very, very quiet. Not angry yet, just still. Like the moment right before you realize the floor isn't as solid as you thought it was. I didn't say anything that night. I just went to bed beside her, like always. But something had shifted. A door I didn't know existed had just cracked open, and I couldn't quite close it again. The layoff came in March. Nothing dramatic, just budget cuts at the firm. Temporary, they said, but temporary doesn't pay a mortgage. I remember sitting in my truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes before I could make myself drive home and tell Margot. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, not because I was scared of being broke. I'd been broke before. I was scared of needing her, actually needing her for the first time in years. That night I told her over dinner, kept my voice steady, tried to make it sound smaller than it was. And for a second, just a second, I thought I saw something softened in her face. I thought, here it is. Here's the moment she puts her hand on mine and says, "We'll figure it out together." I almost let myself hope. Instead, she sighed, glanced at her phone, and said she had a product launch in 2 weeks and couldn't carry the emotional weight of this right now. I told her I wasn't asking her to fix it. I just needed her to sit with me for a minute. Just be present. That's all I wanted. Presence, not solutions. She stood up, started clearing plates, and said 4 words that I don't think I'll ever fully stop hearing. "This isn't about you." I just sat there, fork still in my hand, same as that dinner years ago when she corrected me in front of guests. Same hand, same fork it felt like. Except this time, something didn't just sting. Something broke clean through. And in that silence, standing in my own kitchen, 9 years came rushing back at once. Every double shift, every skipped wedding, every forgotten birthday I'd quietly forgiven, every time I made myself smaller so she could feel bigger. I wasn't angry in that moment, not yet. I was just finally seeing it, all of it, clearly, for the first time. I wasn't her partner. I'd been her safety net, her convenience, the man who handled things so she didn't have to think about him. That night, after she went to bed like nothing happened, I walked outside and sat on the porch steps of the house I'd worked 16-hour days to help pay for, the same porch where I used to imagine us growing old together. I looked up at our bedroom window, the light still on, her shadow moving behind the curtain, probably answering emails. I sat there a long time, long enough for my coffee to go cold beside me, untouched, long enough to ask myself a question I'd been avoiding for 9 years. When did I stop mattering to her? And somewhere in that cold, quiet dark, I realized the harder question wasn't when, it was why I'd let it go on so long. I didn't sleep that night. I sat with it, really sat with it, instead of doing what I always did, which was talk myself out of my own feelings. By morning, something in me had settled.
Not anger, not even sadness anymore, not really. Just clarity, cold, clean clarity, like the first breath of winter air. I waited until the kids were at school. I made coffee for both of us, set hers down across the table, and asked Margot if she had a few minutes. She looked annoyed before I even said anything, glancing at her phone like I was already wasting her time. I almost let that look stop me, the way it always had before. But I didn't. I told her, calm as I could manage, that I wasn't angry with her. That surprised her, I think. I said I'd spent 9 years believing that if I just gave enough, did enough, carried enough, eventually she'd see me, really see me. And last night, she finally showed me the truth instead. This isn't about you, I repeated back to her, quiet. You're right. It hasn't been about me in a long time. She tried to backtrack, said she didn't mean it like that, said I was overreacting, that things had just been stressful. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. But when she finished, I just said, I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm telling you I'm done being invisible in my own home. I told her I wanted to separate, not as a punishment, not as some ultimatum to shock her into changing. I was done with games like that. She got quiet, genuinely quiet, maybe for the first time in years. I think some part of her finally understood I wasn't bluffing, wasn't looking for her to fix it with one good apology. That evening was the hardest part, sitting Owen and Ruthie down on the living room couch, their small faces looking up at me, waiting. I kept it simple, kept it honest, the way my mother always told me to handle hard things. I told them that sometimes two people who love their kids very much still stop being a good team for each other, that it wasn't their fault, not even a little bit. Ruthie cried. Owen just got quiet and held my hand a little tighter than usual. That quiet hurt more than any shouting ever could have.
I didn't slam a door, I didn't throw anything, didn't raise my voice once through any of it. I just finally, after 9 long years, stopped shrinking myself to keep someone comfortable who'd stopped noticing I was even there. That night, lying in the guest room for the first time, staring at the ceiling, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like myself again. 6 months passed. I found a small apartment on the other side of town. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, a decent kitchen, and a quiet I'd forgotten I was allowed to have. Owen and Ruthie stay with me 3 nights a week, and those nights have become the best part of my life. We make pancakes shaped like nothing in particular. We watch bad movies. I'm present now, actually present, not half checked out and exhausted from carrying a weight nobody else could see. Margot's business kept growing, I'll give her that. Saw a feature on her studio in some local magazine a few weeks back. Big smile, perfect lighting. But I noticed something else, too. The captions, the little comments from people who used to be our friends. Questions about why she seemed so tired lately. A missed call from her one night, 11:30. No message left. Another one a week later. I didn't call back right away. Wasn't trying to punish her, I just didn't feel that old pull to drop everything anymore. That's the strange part about karma, I've learned. It doesn't always look like fire and fury. Sometimes it just looks like silence where there used to be an answer. It looks like somebody finally noticing what they had right around the time it stops being available to them. I didn't destroy anything. I didn't need to. I just stopped handing my worth to someone who'd quietly stopped paying for it years ago. And somewhere in that quiet, in that distance, I think Margot finally understood the cost of convenient. Me, though, I wasn't angry anymore. I was just building something new, slowly, honestly, for the first time in a long time, just for myself. If this story felt familiar, If you've ever given everything and gotten silence in return, I hope you remember something. Walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you'll ever do for yourself. I gave Margot 9 years of my best. Now, I'm finally giving some of that back to me.
If this hit home, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. When did you finally choose yourself? I read every single one. Thanks for sitting with my story tonight. Take care of yourself, you deserve that too.